The streets remember characters, not just trophies. They remember the flair, the odd genius, the sudden madness that makes you replay one clip until your phone battery dies. Call it nostalgia, call it tribal memory. Whatever the name, it's loyal. This piece is a roll call. 14 names who lit up Premier League nights in ways that numbers alone don't capture. Same topic, same energy. Loud, affectionate, slightly sideways. No swearing, all heart. Here are 14 ballers streets won't forget. Yannick Bolasie. Power, trickery, that self-invented Bolasie flick that made defenders flinch. He arrived at Crystal Palace and turned the right flank into a personal theatre. When he flew by full tilt, it wasn't just a sprint, it felt like an announcement. One moment to watch, his hat-trick at Sunderland. The first player to hit a Premier League treble, a reminder that sheer intent can flip a game in 11 minutes. Jay-Jay Okocha, pure joy with the ball. You watched him and felt like football had become a street dance. Bolton's crowd still talk about those moments where Okocha refused the script. A nutmeg here, a scoop over the head there, and left professionals flustered. He didn't just win matches, he turned them into evenings you talked about for weeks. Wilfried Zaha. A long-running personal production at Crystal Palace, equal parts craft, audacity, and stubbornness. Zaha could carry a team on a day when nothing else worked. He was the outlet, the threat, the player who invited crowds to lean in. Fouled more than most and often targeted by cynical defending, he still produced moments of creation and finishing that earned him a permanent place in terrace memory. His club totals and long service underline how much of Palace's story ran through him. Here's one thing about fandom. It prefers stories over spreadsheets. Fans cherish the audacious chip, the ridiculous dribble, the late winner with more heat than sense. The Premier League, across decades, offered both tidy stats and messy legends. These ballers belong to the latter category. Memorable, idiosyncratic, omnivorous in stealing attention. Demba Ba, clinical, cool, almost clandestine about his finishing. Newcastle fans still remember how he arrived and immediately fitted, a predator in the box with timing that punished even tiny defensive slips. His partnership and form during the 2011-12 season helped spark some of those electric St James Park nights that felt like a revival has its own soundtrack. Papis Cisse. If you want a player whose first impressions could rewrite a season, look at Cisse's burst for Newcastle in 2012. He ripped through defences, scored a run of goals, and even produced a strike later crowned goal of the season, an audacious, outside-of-the-foot effort at Stamford Bridge that still gets mentioned in highlight reels. Those few months were pure cult folklore. Michu, maybe the purest example of one season all magic. Swansea's Spaniard turned up in 2012-13 and produced a body of work that read like a short film. Goals, the League Cup, and a debut season people still bring up at pubs. He proved that football sometimes hands you a character who arrives, leaves a mark, and then drifts out of the frame. That ephemerality is part of the romance. Hatem Ben Arfa. Talent like this feels unfair on paper. His dribbles had punctuation. His solo runs were small rebellions. Ben Arfa rarely played the long game of consistent seasons, but a single Hatem night, a mazy run, a goal that made commentators gasp, was enough to make a terrace hand him a place in memory. It's the kind of presence that doesn't respect stat lines. Adel Taarabt. Theatre and stubbornness in equal measures. At QPR he refused to be neat. Instead, he embroidered the game with audacious passes and cheeky finishes. That 2010-11 campaign read like a manifesto. Goals, assists, and a sense of mischief that made people argue whether brilliance and work rate are mutually exclusive. Taarabt left fans enchanted and managers exasperated, a perfect combo for the streets to keep talking about. This list isn't a hall of perfection, it's a playlist of moments. Think of it as a mixtape, a few banging tracks, some cult deep cuts, and one or two songs you'll always skip but still know the words to because your mate kept singing them. That collage is what rounds out the memories, the missed penalties as much as the outrageous finishes, the injuries that robbed us of future chapters, and the unexpected runs that suddenly pulled the team into form. These players lived in those gaps between statistics and story. Dimitri Payet. A set-piece poet when he turned up for West Ham, he brought the dead ball wizardry that made you feel suspension in the air, a hush, a run-up, the net replying. Those 2015-16 moments, free kicks that looked choreographed, gave West Ham evenings a cinematic edge. Payet's craft reminded fans that some players shape results with a single calibration of the foot. Andre Arshavin, flashy, mercurial, unforgettable. Londoners remember the handful of Arsenal outings where Arshavin looked like the star of an invented film. Quick feet, sudden turns, a nose for the ridiculous. He could make the ball behave like a personal prop and pull off scenes that linger long after the final whistle. Alain Saint-Maximin, chaos with a smile. Saint-Maximin plays like someone who discovered the game was a playground and then invited everyone in. His hops, sudden direction changes, and audacious runs force defenders into panic and crowd into delighted disbelief. He's mercurial in the best sense. Inconsistency matters less when every touch is a potential headline. Those who saw him live will tell you, he made waiting for a moment feel worth it. Dimitar Berbatov, grace personified at pace with a striker's brain. Berbatov's game looked unhurried even when everything around him was frantic. A flick, a measured turn, and a finish that felt inevitable. He might not have sprinted into every tackle, but he made football look like poetry, and clubs and fans rewarded that style with trophies and headlines. His elegance still plays on highlight reels and on long lists of Premier League greats. If you're wondering which of these players were consistent technicians and which were fireworks, the answer is both. Some, such as Arshavin, Berbatov and Dembélé, offered pragmatism with flair. Others, such as Okocha, Ben Arfa and Taarabt, were living art, sometimes frustrating but always watchable. And then there are the one-season wonders like Michu, who arrived, made you fall in love and left the calendar stamped with their name. Mousa Dembélé, the midfield magician who made being on the ball look like a protective art. At Tottenham, he was both ballast and escape hatch, able to draw pressure with his body, then slip away with a single glide. Teammates swore he changed how matches felt just by holding possession in tight areas. Opponents cursed the time he had to turn and pick a pass. He belongs to the catalogue of players coaches quietly miss. Dennis Bergkamp, pure invention without the need for flash. Bergkamp's movement, first touch, and vision at Arsenal were textbook and then some. The kind of talent that makes teammates and fans feel blessed. His best moments read like short films. A subtle turn, a decisive pass, a finish that rewrites a highlight reel. For many, he's the artistic spine of an era. His statue and accolades reveal how deeply that affection runs. All of these names share something. They made games feel less tidy and more human. That's the criterion, not just what they did on paper, but what they made people do afterwards. Tell the story, imitate the move, shout the name. The streets keep score with a different metric. Memory density. How often does a family dinner end up with someone saying, "Remember that nutmeg by?" That's how the legend grows. So next time someone argues the point with cold numbers, bring them to the street ledger. Show them the clips, call the names, and watch how the conversation morphs into a chorus. The measurements on a table matter, yes, but the real currency is the moment that makes a city stop breathing for 10 seconds. That's the economy these footballers built. The streets won't forget them, not because they were perfect, but because they were human, unpredictable, gifted, and oddly generous to memory. That, more than any trophy, is the kind of immortality the terraces hand out. And if you've got a favourite from this list, you already know why.